Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk with the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. I'm your host, Kalam, and this is Talk with the Titans. On tonight's show, we've got, you know what, the mad scientist himself, Ngozi, in the building. Peace to you, fam.
Peace, brother. How you doing? Team Osiris on the horizon. What's good, man?
Yeah, I'm well. I'm just excited. I hope everybody else out there who's watching right now is excited for this upcoming show. We've got the Titan himself, the mad scientist. He's going to be going into, some Moorish information on science, philosophy, spirituality, history. You know what? We've got a jam-packed show in store for you, and I can't wait for my brother to go in. So, my brother Ngozi, what you saying? You ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready, brother. I'm ready to get it in, man. What's going on with you, brother? How you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm well. I just can't wait. I hope everybody out there is tuned in. If you're not, boy, you're gonna miss a good show. So, what I would like for everybody to do who is tuned in right now, please share the link with as many people as you possibly can. Let everybody know that Team Osiris is here, live in the building. Amon-Ra Squad is live here in the building. We've got my brother Ngozi going in. So, my brother Ngozi, I see that one of the first things, one of the major things that's going on in the conscious community at the moment is the talks on the Moors. So I don't know, I know you wanted to come and talk about the Moors. So let me know, what information have you got for us?
I think it's important for us to understand the Moorish, North African history, or the Western history. The Moors played a major role in our history as African people. We have them. I think a lot of people have a misinterpretation of who the Moors are because they don't understand the Berber tribes or who they were. We have to talk about the time period going back 41,000 years where human beings populated North Africa. If anybody know about how the Earth works, we go through a certain tilt phase every 41,000 to 22,000 years at 24 to 22 degrees. And our Sahara goes from green to dry, from green to dry. The last one occurred around 24,000 years ago, the Mendel Glacier period, before the Capsian period, which arose around 10,000 years ago. So you had human populations, predominantly A markers up there, a few EP177s, all lingering around North Africa, what they classify as Proto-Cro-Magnon populations of people. They had the same similar Cro-Magnon culture. These were black Africans, though. They had a certain way of doing things. And later on, around 24 to 23,000 years ago in the Mendel Glacier period, a lot of the heavy rain with the drying, it depends on something called a monsoon. So when the monsoon goes down, the heavy drying or the rain itself comes down when the monsoon phase is changed around this Mendel Glacier period. The monsoon phase right now is south. So that's why a lot of the area in the northern Mediterranean is dry. So we're talking about human beings going backwards and forward for thousands of years. And we have to understand the different Berber tribes or the Amazigh tribes that makes up the these so-called Moorish people. Not to mention in Mauritania, ruling Niger Congo speaking people called the O.S.I.R.I.S, which was a Proto-Mindi people. They once ruled, and they had the fishermen who were the Maghrits, which also lived there, who were Berber type people, but the O.S.I.R.I.S people was not Berbers. They were Niger Congo people. So when we talk about Moors, you're talking about I'm talking about original inhabitants of these Westerners or the people of the Maghreb. When the Phoenicians called them Moro or Moros, which means Westerner, before we get the later century called Moros, which was a description that the Greco-Romans gave them because of their tinted skin. That was a derogatory term for Moor, but before, the Phoenicians called them Westerner in the Maghreb. So we're talking about Niger Congo speaking people before the Haratan population, before the series in different groups, and you're talking about an Afro-Asiatic speaking people. Then when you get into the certain haplogroups or the sex chromosomes that shows the origin of these people, they're coming from primarily the Horn of Africa, and certain people are coming from out of West Sudan, out of the Nuba zone, going into the Sahara, populating the Sahara at different times, going backwards and forward. Before the Capsian period, which occurred around 10,000 to 6,000 years ago, when you started to see a major influx of E3B carriers coming in, getting rid of the old groups that was already up there. So North Africa has a strange, it's a very cryptic history, because you have foreign markers before the Romans, before the Greeks, before, you know, the Greeks came in 684 BC, as early as 684 BC in Libya, and they opened up or created a center or area called Serenia. But this is before this zone. You're talking about, we have mitochondrial DNA H living in the Atlas Mountains of Morocco before the Almohad groups as early as 9,000 years ago. So we're talking about a population of North African men sea hopping from one side of the Mediterranean to the other side of the Mediterranean, going backwards and forward for thousands of years. So I think it's important for us to understand the time periods of North Africa when they went to war, the colonizations, the war, the exchange of philosophies, because before they practiced Islam, the earliest Berbers converted to Islam as early, well, the Arabs came in 690 AD. They went in through Egypt in 641 AD. So we have to follow the timeline when these Arabs came in and when they practiced Islam. A lot of the Berbers, or the Amazigh-speaking people, practiced Judaism and some forms of Christianity. St. Augustus, who was from Algeria, was a Berber. Arius, who was also from North Africa, in 325 AD, the one that they talk about in the Council of Nicaea, he was also a Berber or North African. So a lot of our Berber ancestors before Islam practiced a lot of system religions. They also worshiped Amun at one time period. So we have to take it all the way back, just following the timeline. When the Sea people, when the Berbers took over Egypt, the Egyptians known the Berbers as the Tamahu. The darker skinned Berbers was known as the Tahinnu. The Tahinnu were like an early cousin class to the Proto-Fulani population. They lived in the southern regions of southern Libya to northern Niger. And then we know in northern Niger, there's a tribe of Berbers called the Tuareg there, and then on the opposite side, you have the Wadabi. So we're talking about, this is where they also found the black Libyan mummy, which goes back 7,000 years, before the mummification process in Egypt. So the Berbers have a great, powerful history that makes up our African heritage, and there's no need to debunk it. You know, and some of us who descend from Mindi people, Wolof people, Senegal is right south of Mauritania, and Mauritania is south of Morocco. So if we want to deal with the Almohad Empire, the Almohad Empire stretched from Mauritania to northern Niger through Senegal River, and it was these cats that was responsible in the 10th century for bringing the Almohad Empire before the Almohads, who was the mountainous Berbers, before they conquered them and took over. But then we got to go a little bit prior back to 711 AD with General Tariq. And General Tariq was a Berber. He came from Morocco, but he was kind of like a flunky for the Arabs when the Arabs came in before they invaded Spain in 711 AD. So we have a lot of Moorish history that stands out at its best after General Tariq, from the Almohads to the struggling with the Almohads of the mountains and these different tribes that goes on. I mean, these different situations that goes on in North Africa. So,
and you know what? Yeah, I think you're literally the most brilliant individual to actually explain this for us. Now, the question I'm going to ask you is this. You know what? To get things into proper perspective, we need geography, we need history, or should I say chronology, and I think we also need some type of way of figuring out the identity or the ethnicity of these individuals that we refer to as Moors. So when we're talking about Moors, I want to know the land span. What is the geographical land span of what we're talking about when we're talking about Moors, the Moorish area? And also, what is the chronology of when these Moors actually made their mark in history?
Well, the Moors, the area of a lot of the Moors history starts with the Maghreb, which is in West Africa. We're talking about Tunisia, Algeria. When you talk about the Moors, first of all, the Moor is only a description again from the Phoenicians, which explains Westerner. So we're talking about Berber tribes from 711 AD is where they made their major stamp when they really went in and they conquered Spain. This is what we understand from our time period. But we also have to understand in the Median period, or the Maori people who once lived in Mauritania, the original Moors, the Maori people who were Berber-speaking people who lived in Mauritania, and later on, you know, they the Romans split them up. Later on, they called them the Medians. They played a major role. You also had the Syrian, a Roman emperor, because we got to go all the way back to St. Augustus. St. Augustus was a Berber. He was part of one of the earliest Christian fathers of Christianity. Who else? And he was from Algeria, as I brought up earlier. We have to bring up the Libyan emperor who ruled Rome. He was also a Berber at a certain time period. And when we talk about geographical location, who made up these Moors, the Moors were from North Africa. Some of them were from Senegal, West Africa, Niger, Congo speakers. Also, our Mindi ancestors, you know, were part of that Moorish empire or the Moorish paradigm because they was looked at as being Moors because they were Muslims. So anybody who was coming from Africa, from whether it's north, whether you're a Twani Moor, the southwest, above the Sahara or below the Sahara, as they call Sub-Saharan, you're classified as a Moor to the Europeans that seen them and bear witness to the activity, that they were doing. Not to mention the University of Toledo that was established in Spain from Berbers from Morocco, which was the empire. Before Morocco had the term Morocco, the Almoravids called it Medi Kush, and later on the Medi Kush. This is the 10th century AD, and later on after Medi Kush fell, you have the Almohads that kick in. So the time period is really funny because North Africa has been colonized a few times by different people. From the Scythian area with the Greeks when they took over in 684 AD, 429 AD with the Vandals, 30 BC with the Romans. The Phoenicians came in as early as 800 BC. You know, and the Phoenicians was a hybrid population. They were a crossbreed between Amorites and Cretan people that came from Southern Europe. This is what created the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians was a hybrid between those sea people that came into Egypt and the 21st dynasty with the last pharaoh. This is around, if I'm not mistaken, 3200 BC, 3100 BC, with Ramesses III, the last Insubeti, who had Y chromosome E1B1A like most sub-Saharan Africans, who got his throat sliced or slit. When the sea people came in and the Berbers came in and they took over the 21st dynasty, this is when you start to see an influx of sea people coming in. So they come in as early as that time period coming into North Africa, but they were already breeding with those Amorites who were earlier in pre-dynastic Egypt as early as 1800, not pre-dynastic, I'm sorry, in dynastic Egypt as early as 1800 BC. They were known as Hyksos. Hyksos were nothing but Amorites. Same people that later on became the Phoenicians to the Greek because of the purple ash that they woo. So these people who bred with the sea people later on become the Phoenicians a little bit later after the collapse of the 21st dynasty in Egypt. And then they come in at 800 BC under the myth of somebody called Ditobel, which gave rise to the Carthaginian Empire. And when they get there, you got a Berber population already living there as well, like a free population, who we get the term Africa from, and other Berbers who were there. Kind of crossbreed in between, a little bit before the time period. This is 800 to 700 BC, a little bit before the time period of 200 BC when Hannibal was born. So geographically, as you asked the question, we're talking about Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, the Sawa-Osis of western Egypt or the Sahara, northern Niger, northern Mali where the Touareg exists, and also Senegal and the Mandinka Empire of Mali. And we have to also remember that the Mandinka Empire is just not modern-day Mali. The term Mali means hippopotamus. The Mandinka Empire stretched from Guinea, where Senjata Keita, the Lion King, before the conversion of Islam, when he had the impact and took over all of that whole portion of Africa. Also Mauritania. In Mauritania, we talked about the Bafar, but later on the Bafar, which is a Mandinka population, they also had a group of people called the Saunke, and the Saunke was responsible for building ancient Ghana and Mauritania. All these people were part of the Mandinka Empire, from Mauritania to Liberia, early Liberia before it was called Liberia, to Sierra Leone, they even took over Senegal or the Wolof population at one time period. These people also played a major role in part of the Moorish history. Not to mention also, I forgot to mention, Baghdad, India, people from Yemen, certain people that came into Africa, whether it was through colonization or whether they came in peacefully or through war or whatever, they also played a role in the Moorish Empire. So when we talk about Moors, we're talking about a collection of people that's coming from either Arabia, North Africa, and even some parts of India. All these people that stood for the same agenda, trying to come in and conquer, fighting against the Byzantine Empire, and also fighting against the later on after the Byzantine Empire, the Knights Templar, when they tried to revolt against the Moorish paradigm that was already going on in Europe. So anybody that was part of that Islamic crusade was part of the Moorish paradigm.
Jeez, damn, my brother Ngozi is going in right about now. Hey, listen, if you're not actually enjoying the information that you're hearing so far, please hit the like button. Hit the like button, give us a big thumbs up. Let us know that you're actually enjoying the information, because damn, this is powerful information that's being dropped right now. You know what, my brother Ngozi, I have to ask you this question, because you know what, we all know that there was a big debate, a month or so ago between Sharif Bey and our brother Reggie as well. So I would like to know, where do you stand in that debate? Where do you stand? Do you stand with brother Sharif Bey, that proclaims that we who are in the Americas and so forth are actually Moors, or with Reggie who says, no, we're not Moors? So I want to know, are we the descendants of these Moorish people, these Moorish empires?
I think that both of them brought truth. I think we could be classified as Moorish American. You could too, because we are darker skinned, especially us who practice certain fragments of Islam. You'll be classified as a Moor, because Moor means we come from West Africa, and also your description of the later on interpretation of Moor from the Greco-Roman or Latin perspective, when they took the term after the Mori and made it a derogatory term, which means scorched or darker skin. So we could call ourselves Moorish American. Not to mention, the Africans, or the term African, came from Berbers. The Afri once lived in southern Tunisia, in Carthage, and they lived amongst Hannibal or his bloodline. So if you're going to call yourself African, which was named after the Berber people that the Romans conquered, what's the difference of calling yourself Moor? So yes, you could call yourself a Moor. So I ride with both of them. I think that both of them had good points. I'm neutral on it, to be honest with you.
Cool. You know what? We're going to be taking some comments from YouTube section very soon. So if you've got your comments, please leave your comments, leave your questions, and so forth. All right? Next thing I need to actually just drop as well, because I need to start doing this. I realize I haven't quite been as vocal as I possibly could be pertaining to working with different businesses. And what I say by this is, here at Talk with the Titans, we've got a few things. Let me just quickly go to it real quickly. Because a lot of people who are new to Talk with the Titans don't actually know what we're about. So real quickly, we have certain goals, okay, or certain objectives. I don't know if everybody can see the screen right now, but we've got certain objectives, which is A, to unite the conscious community across land and sea, which we're doing right now. We're in the UK and we're speaking to our brothers in America. We speak to our brothers in Africa and in the Caribbean as well. We unify through shared understanding of different perspectives, bridge the gap between the community and its leaders, foster the next generation of Titans, share and critically evaluate useful information. Now, we have certain goals. I know this needs to actually get updated because this was written in 2015. But one of our objectives down here, or goals down here, was to support and promote ethical businesses. And by doing that, we would love for some of our brothers who are business-minded, who do own businesses, to actually come on Talk with the Titans and promote their business. So if you've got a business, you've got a product, you've got a service that you would like to sell, drop us an advert, drop us a flyer or whatever it is, some artwork, and we'll show it during this program. So that's to my brothers and sisters who are entrepreneurs, who do own their businesses. We will promote your business on here. So please drop your business information. Drop me an email at kalam@live.co.uk. We want to empower our black businesses. So, real quickly, let me go back to Ngozi. Ngozi, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm here.
All right. I'm going to need you to talk to us about, because you know what, there's some background noise taking place over here. So I need you just to go back in and talk to us about the science aspect.
Oh, well, as far as the science and the technology that the Moors brought, they brought a lot of stuff. They brought archery to Spain, mathematics. If you deal with the Latin language has a heavy Arabic influence. What else did they bring? Pharmaceutical, which is drug exchange for resources of money if you were sick. They brought a lot of pharmaceutical programs into Spain. It's a lot of, what else did they bring? They brought what they refer to as the cyclical clock, the big clock that they use in Europe. A lot of that came from the Moors. What else? The University of Toledo offered a lot, man. From agriculture, storage of food, which is the way we have grocery stores and different things today. A lot of that came from the Moors who taught it to Europe. I mean, when Europe went through the Dark Ages, it was the Moors that saved them or kept them up for the hundreds of years that they was going through it. So the Moors brought a major impact of science or knowing based off their observation. We got to understand something about the Moors, or these Islamic people. They were the custodians of Greek information, and the Greeks played a major role with the Arabic influence. So when we deal with astronomy, from mathematics to archery to architecture, different things, these are what the Moors were introducing to Europe. In Europe, in the Dark Ages, these Western Europeans of the Iberian Peninsula knew nothing. And if it wasn't for the Arabs, and I've got to give it to them, we wouldn't even know Greek history if it wasn't for them. So it's important for us to understand mathematics, science, astronomy, as I brought up, archery, pharmaceutical processes of preserving medicines and certain things. All that come from the Moors and what they introduced to them. And when I say Moor, I'm talking about from our African ancestors that discovered things in Africa, from the Sahara to the northern Mediterranean, and also to the Arabs who had certain things, and the brothers that was coming from Baghdad. These Muslims were very, very, very highly influenced by the Greeks, and they was trying to keep up with the Greek information. Our old scholars used to say that the Greeks were the custodians of the Egyptian knowledge, but they actually were the custodians of the Greek knowledge. And we know that the Greeks learned from the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians learned from the Egyptians. So at the core of it, yeah, they were the custodians of Egyptian information. But we got to be able to talk about it directly, and we have to talk about the influence that the Greeks did when the Arabs was trying to revive and keep up with what the Greeks was doing when they introduced a lot of the science and technology to Europe, because Europe knew nothing at all. I mean, they wasn't stupid, but those Moors introduced a lot of stuff up there.
Now we hear that, the Moors are actually the custodian of, ancient Egyptian knowledge. How can we possibly prove that? Is there any evidence to support that they actually had ancient Egyptian knowledge?
I mean, the only Egyptian knowledge is what they got, what they regurgitated from the Greeks. So I mean, whatever the Greeks had when it comes to mathematics, we know that when the Greeks came in contact with the Egyptians influenced them. We have to understand the time period when Greeks first came into North Africa. These Greeks they were actually more familiar with the Berbers than they was with Arabs. Greeks was living in North Africa as early as 684 BC. Herodotus went into Egypt in 500 BC. This is before Alexander the Fag took over in 332 BC. They opened up a place in Libya called Cyrenia. So they were already in contact with the Berber population, not to mention that a lot of the Greeks had African ancestry. I'll be bringing it up. So a lot of the stuff that they got or that they came in contact with far as the technology and information, it was really coming from the Greeks. So they were the custodians of Greek information who were the regurgitators of what they learned from the Egyptians at the core tenet. But you can look at a lot of stuff that the Arabs introduced that was heavily influenced by the Greeks, the way they did certain things. They brought poetry, they brought philosophy, they brought a lot of customs up there. So at the core of it all, you could say Egyptian, but on the surface, it was Greek that they were really the custodians of the knowledge of. And if like I brought up, if it wasn't for the Arabs, we wouldn't even know who the Greeks was. It was them that brought a lot of the Mesopotamian history and a lot of the Greek history. They brought it. The Western Europeans wasn't doing nothing. That was their cousins, especially in the Iberian Peninsula. They were the Greek cousins. They were all related. These are southern Mediterranean people. But they knew nothing. So the Arabs knew about it, and a lot of the North Africans knew about it because North Africans came in contact with Greeks as early as 684 BC in Libya, in Tunisia, and certain other parts. A lot of the Berbers were very familiar with European ancestry. They were already breeding with Sami-type people and the Scandinavian-type people as early as 8,000 to 9,000 years in the Atlas Mountains. So a lot of the influence was already coming from backwards and forth from Europe to North Africa. They were sea hopping. According to Spencer Wells and Alice Roberts, there was a grave found in southern Spain which goes back 7,000 years, and when they was able to measure the DNA off the soft tissue that was preserved, they found that the people in the grave had Y chromosome E1B1B. E1B1B is a Y chromosome that comes out of the Horn of Africa. So that's important.
I hear that. Now, you know what? You talked about the Greeks actually having African ancestry. What is the connection between the Greeks and Africans?
Well, according to science, and I'm going to let Kansu, if he got the article, if he can read it, geneticists has proven that the Greeks, they human leukoantigens, which is the immunities, it shows that they have a heavy connection with Ethiopians, Sub-Saharan Africans, Ethiopians. At that time, Ethiopian was anything below the Sahara, black Africans. Not to mention that 40% of Greece, the men, whether they're Macedonian or modern day Greeks, they were Y chromosome E1B1B. We're talking about we know about Black Athena and the Minoans who already have black, and we know about the Messenians that came in, who later on became the Dorians, who later on became the Spartans and different types of people. But they were already crossbreeding with those indigenous people south of Greece, the Minoan type people who were already have black. They had black ancestry. Again, they were already island hopping from North Africa to that part of Europe for almost 7,000 years. Brother Kansu, if you can read that article to prove the premise of the DNA of the Greeks to the brother right quick, that'll be cool, bro.
Now I'm quite familiar. I'm going to just filibuster. I know I'm quite familiar with. There's an article put out that actually shows that the Greeks had Nigerian in specific ancestry, which was quite mind-blowing and mind-boggling at the same time.
Yeah, well, that's earlier. You know, you had a large different populations, because when they say Ethiopia, remember, brother Kalam, it's not modern-day Ethiopia. Modern-day Ethiopia was classified as El Habasha, or by the mistranslation of the Western European Britons, Abyssinia. So that's not the actual Ethiopia. The actual Ethiopia was in the Sudan, Western Ethiopia. Anything below that Sahara was Ethiopia. Now, it means burnt skin. It's only a description. So at one time period, you did have a type of Niger Congo. I wouldn't say Nigerian, because Nigerian is only one group or one branch of the Niger Congo family. The Niger Congo family is the Mindi, the Bafar, the Siri, which became the Wolof, the Fulani, the Yoruba, the Akan, the Igbo. All these people are part of the Niger Congo family. And before they lived in the Niger Congo, they came from a zone in Sudan called Kordofan and Nubia. And they left out and went through the Sahara at different time periods and populated the Niger Congo area. We know with the Adamawa population that went into the forests of West Africa as early as 24,000 years ago. So we're talking about some of these people developed the insulin growth factor in those rainforests and became pygmies, because they developed the insulin growth factor 1, or what they refer to as the D gene. The way the telomeres affect them, they develop certain mutations which allow them to get smaller. Not us, but when E3A or E1B1A came in and caused the bottleneck or reduction of the population of Y chromosome A and B. We see old vestiges of those markers with the A00 that was discovered that goes back 338,000 years, which lets us know at one time period West Africa was populated with proto-Khoisan type people and proto-Twa type people. And Twa just don't mean pygmy. This is hunter-gatherers. But the article that I wanted Consul to read, I see him on here. I want him to read the article about the HLAs or the human leukoantigens, which shows the Greek lineage. If Khufu can bring it up, that'll be fine too, because I sent it to Consul so he can get it in while I was out here. Consul, are you there?
Okay. Whilst we're waiting again, everybody who's joined us right now, there's 200 people, viewing us right now. Again, please hit the share button. Let everybody know my brother from Amun-Ra Squad and Team Osiris is in the building. The mad scientist himself dropping that information. This is a show, okay, unlike other shows. This is a show where you literally need to get your pen and your paper ready. Okay, have your pen and paper ready, listen to those keywords, write it down, afterwards Google, afterwards go to an encyclopedia, read it up. If you don't understand it, check a science book and just keep on doing your research. Also, please rewind the video and keep on playing it until you familiarize yourself with these different terms and what my brother is saying. I know my brother talks extremely fast and he's got a whole lot of information for you guys. So please be very attentive to the information that's being dropped right now. So I don't know if Konsu is ready or my brother Khufu is ready.
Hey, Khufu, could you read it? Are you available to read the article that I sent out if I give it to you?
If not,
yeah, you could send it out. Yeah, because I'm out. But
are you out? Okay.
But I don't know. I'll pull it up and read it.
Yes, sir.
I'll probably just shoot it to Kalam.
Consul got it right there. Consul, could you read the article about the Greek and the Ethiopian lineage? I want to explain the HLAs of the human leukoantigens that they found.
Okay.
Okay, as we wait for that as well, We've got some questions that's been flooding in. I see you, Sci-Fi. I see all the questions that you've been writing up there. Sci-Fi is our moderator in the comment section, which is absolutely amazing. She's getting all of our questions ready for us today. But there's a question here. It says, did modern humans mate with Neanderthals? If so, where did the modern humans come from?
Modern humans came out of Africa. Homo sapiens sapien is a hybrid itself anyway. I'm sorry, could you hear me?
Just a bit muffled. Say again?
I said modern Homo sapiens sapien, our species, come out of Africa. Homo sapiens sapien is a hybrid anyway. It's a collection of different archaic humans that form Homo sapiens sapiens. For example, they found something called almost human in an area of Morocco which goes back 300,000 years. The oldest fossils of Homo sapiens sapien was found in the Omo Valley in Ethiopia. It's called Omo Man 1 and Omo Man 2. These are the oldest fossils of modern Homo sapiens sapien. But you find old strands of archaic traits of Homo sapiens, like proto-Homo sapiens, all through Africa. So the Homo sapiens sapien was a hybrid before migrating out of Africa. The last archaic humans that our species bred with was Neanderthal. They also found certain archaic traits with the pygmy. They also found archaic traits with the Hadza of Tanzania. The Y chromosome A00, which goes back 338,000 years, is not a modern human Y chromosome. This modern Y chromosome predates A0, A1N, A1B, or A1BT, which evolved into the later strands that the Khoisan type people have and the Dinka and the Nur have. So our Homo sapiens sapien ancestors, they come out of East Africa, they come out of Africa, they migrate we had a few out of Africa migrations. The first two wasn't successful. You had one as early as 130,000 years ago. They found fossils in China, teeth. It wasn't successful. You had another one in Israel, which goes back 90,000 years in the Skahul Cave. That wasn't successful because of the area and the drought that went on. The successful out of Africa migration was the one that occurred 60,000 years ago. And this one is what connects all of us to scientific Adam, or what they call today. They don't want to say scientific Adam anymore. Scientific Noah, because he left out of the continent and went into the so-called Middle East or the Eurasia area. His Y chromosome was haplogroup CT, M168. And through CT M168, some of it goes into Australia and becomes CM130. Some of it went into Europe as the early hunter-gatherers as CV20. You had three types of people that made up the European. You had the early hunter-gatherers who were dark-skinned, and they got proof of that because they found fossils in Spain, which goes back 7,000 years. He had dark skin but blue eyes, which is based off the OCA2 mutation that developed in the Georgia area. So you had hunter-gatherers in Europe at first who were darker skinned. Cro-Magnon type people had a lot of oceanic or Southeast Asian or Australasian type bloods like Y chromosome F, certain types of CM130s and different things. And that goes around 24,000 to 23,000. Then later on you get the farmers that migrated into Europe around 8,000 years ago from the Levant. And then you get the Yamanas. The Yamanas come in around 5,000 years ago as horsemen that brought the Indo-European languages amongst these people. So they started breeding with Neanderthals way before these time periods of the migration. They started breeding with Neanderthals in Israel in the Middle East around 50,000 years ago. And they have articles on that. But if you got anything else, I'm going to keep going further into it. But Brother Consul, could you read that article?
Yes, which article are you referring to, Ngozi? What's the name of the article?
The Greek human leukoantigens, the Greek and the Sub-Saharan African human leukoantigens.
Let's see.
Okay, while we're still waiting for that, you know what? Our brother, Minister Inky, was on not too long ago, and he was talking about the RH factor. Now, my brother here, Zedon, asked, and is Neanderthal responsible? Are the Neanderthals responsible for the RH factor? If so, where did the RH factor come from?
The RH factor is an antigen depletion. It lacks the D antigen. We're talking about first of all, most human beings are RH positive. Like my blood type is RH. My blood type is blood type B positive, and I'm RH positive. The problem with RH factor is the RH negative, and that's really rare. The highest level of RH negative is in the Bosque area. But every European don't have that. You have certain African people that's, my auntie was Rh negative, and she has a lot of her West African lineage. She got more Sub-Saharan African blood in her than me at 88% according to the DNA. So that's bull crap. You're talking about, if you want to get a test, if a woman is Rh negative, her blood will attack a man who has a baby by her that's Rh positive. And it causes a chemical reaction called erythroblastosis. And what happens with erythroblastosis, if she don't get a D antigen shot, it will kill the baby. But most humans are Rh positive. It's just like the old myth with blood type O being original. It's not. Blood type O is one of the last blood types to exist. So we're talking about different antigens, a lack of antigens. Like an A antigen doesn't have a B antigen. An O antigen doesn't have a, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about antigens, which is proteins in the blood. That's all it is. So people with Rh negative lack the D antigen, and it moves in a collection of almost close to 40 or 42. So that's what we're talking about. It has nothing to do with Neanderthal at all. Matter of fact, you don't even find Neanderthal traits in humans based off blood type. You find Neanderthal traits in humans based off the way their immune system responds and certain traits that certain people have outside of Africa, like the high levels of creatine that Caucasians have in their skin, lupus, osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, certain traits that they developed from Neanderthal, which gives them a downgrade, but it also gave them a benefit. Running in the cold with shorts on below zero. That's something that they developed from their Neanderthal ancestry. Also, more Asians have higher levels of Neanderthal in them and Denisovan than the Western European. So it has nothing to do with the Rh factor at all. If you look into the Rh factor, you can see who came up with it, where the coin came from, and it has nothing to do even with the real rhesus macaque. The reason why they called it that because the similarity of the rhesus macaque and the and this antigen that humans have. That's all. So, Brother Consul, do you got the article yet?
I don't see the title of the article in Ngozi. I don't think I have that one. Not the one that I was given.
Sent it to you. You got all four of them. It was the first one that I sent, and it says Greek and Sub-Saharan African genes.
Hold on,
if I can read.
Hold on one second. I think I have it.
Or you could type in Greek Sub-Saharan African HLAs, because I sent you four of them. One on E1B1B, and also another one with the way the Greek immune system responds. But back to the question.
What part do you want me to read in Ngozi?
Just the top part, so you can show the references of what I'm trying to talk about with how the Greeks have African heritage and it ties into Africa.
Okay.
And Bro Consul, if you could share your screen, that would be even perfect.
Okay, hold on a second.
As well, keep your questions flowing. We're still reading the comment section. Just type up your questions, and we'll try our best for our brother to actually answer them. Konsu, let me know if you're ready.
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay, and there's another question here coming in from Kemet King. He asks, who were the first occupants in what is known as the Americans, and how did they get there?
Oh, man. Well, the first people that came into America you had the Australasian type people that came here with Y chromosome CM130. These were the Aborigine type people, the same people that you find in Guinea, the same people that you find in Malaysia. These are the same people that came to the Americas before the proto-Mongoloids that lived on the Bering Strait. So you're talking about a population of people that came over here as early as 20,000 years ago. And then later on, and they were black, they were dark skinned, they were equatorial humans. And later on, you have our proto or paleo-mongoloids who were also of swarthy skin, or what we refer to as globe melanin. They had a high level of uromelanin. They came around 15 to 13,000 years ago through the Bering Strait. So you had two types of people that came here. And later on, somewhere down the line, thousands of years later, because you're talking about 15,000 to 20,000, you have the Australasians type here. You have Y chromosome CM130 here. You have mitochondrial DNA M2 here. Before mitochondrial DNA B and A that came, not Y chromosome A and B, but mitochondrial. And then later on, you get the Y chromosome P that comes here through the proto-Mongoloids. The same Y chromosome P and45, which was responsible for giving Europeans the Y chromosome R, which became R1, which became R1b, and branched off to the different populations of the R markers that we find all through Europe. This is why they're saying now that some of the earliest Native Americans had early European traits. Not modern European traits, but certain early European ancestry, because at one time period, a lot of the Paleo-Mongoloids and Proto-Mongoloids were cousins to the modern-day Caucasoid. Mongolia or Siberia is right under Russia, right near the Caucasus. The Caucasus stretches between northern Turkey and southern Russia near the Black Sea or the Georgia area. So we're talking about these people all being related when you study the Y chromosome from P to R and certain SNPs. And prior before that, they go all the way back to those black people of Asia with MNOPS through Malaysia, to the black IT people of the Philippines. It was these people that developed those messed up mutations like SLC2485, who later on became the different populations, or 4582. It was these people later on out of Southeast Asia, the Dravidian type people. Even when you look at the skull type, from the Caucasoid to the narrow aquiline features or orthognathistic features, it was these type of people that developed the SLC2485, the OCA2, the Octantanian strand 2, in Georgia area, which gave them blue eyes. It was these type of people that were responsible for the bad downgrade of the deleted genes that we see today with modern Western Europeans. So basically, a lot of the early Native Americans were at first the Australasian type people who were black, who came over here first. You find the remnants of them in Brazil. And the further south they kept going, they go through the Newt area, through Alaska, and then they go down through Canada. Then they go all the way down through Virginia in different parts. The further you go down, the more you're closer to the equatorial zones of the planet, which is UVB. You got UVB, UVA, and UVC. We got ultraviolet cosmic rays, which is responsible for our ozone layer that protects us. You got ultraviolet burning rays, which is responsible for the equatorial zones. You got UVA rays, which exists in zone 3, which is ultraviolet aging rays. So the further these Paleo-Mongoloids went south, and even the Australasians, the less clothes they wore. So it increased their levels of melanocytes or melanosomes in their skin, and they got darker, becoming the Arawaks, or the Seminole in Florida before they came together with a few of the Africans, or the Cherokees or the Blackfoots. By the time they make it to the islands, they go all through Haiti, they go through all through the Jamaica area, they go through all Puerto Rico, and these are the Arawak populations. And they even go all the way down to Mexico and become the Aztec, the Incas, and the Mayans. When it comes to the Olmecs, it's kind of fuzzy on who they were, because even though they have robust features like big nose and big lips, they wasn't African. They just had robust features because you have something called throwback polymorphism. Throwback polymorphism is when you're living in a certain environment, genes can go off and on. You can learn this in basic epigenetics, where it can turn off and on when genes and cells don't communicate properly, and it causes mutations. So with throwback polymorphisms, you can see certain features or certain traits come back. It goes backwards and forward. Just like our skin color can go backwards and forward. If you study the people in the Sahara, people in northern arid Africa compared to people in equatorial Africa, the only reason why your hair is thick to release heat to keep the body cool. Certain people in North Africa or Ethiopia and the mountains of Ethiopia, where it's very arid, their hair is soft to retain heat to keep the body warm because it's arid up there. So it's basic information and basic chemical key components that's responsible for the phenotypes and genome mutations, the way people look the way they look. So when it comes to the people that were over here, as I brought up, you have the Australoid types here first, who were black, then you get the Paleo-Mongoloids or Proto-Mongoloids that came later.
So I know my brother Konsu has got the article ready. So Konsu, go ahead.
Most definitely. We're talking about the HELA genes in Macedonians and the Sub-Saharan origin of the Greeks, as our brother Ngozi talked about earlier. This abstract states that HLA alleles have been determined in individuals from the Republic of Macedonia by DNA typing and sequencing. HLA, A, B, DR, and DQ allele frequencies and extended haplotypes have been for the first time determined, and the results compared to those of other Mediterraneans, particularly with their neighboring Greeks. Genetic distances, neighbor joining dendrograms, and correspondence analysis have been performed. The following conclusions have been reached. 1. Macedonians belong to the older Mediterranean substratum. Like Iberians, including Basques, North Africans, Italians, French, Cretans, Jews, Lebanese, Turks or Anatolians, Armenians, and Iranians. Macedonians are not related with geographically close Greeks who do not belong to the older Mediterranean substratum. Greeks are found to have substantial relatedness to Sub-Saharan Ethiopian people, which separate from other Mediterranean groups. Both Greeks and Ethiopians share quasi-specific DRB1 alleles, such as 0305, 0305, 0307, 0411, 0413, 0416, 0417, 0412, 1304, and 1310. Genetic distances are closer between Greeks and Ethiopian sub-Saharan groups than to any other Mediterranean group. And finally, Greeks cluster with Ethiopians, sub-Saharans in both neighbor joining, dendrograms, and correspondence analyses. The time period when these relationships might have occurred was ancient but uncertain and might be related to the displacement of Egyptian Ethiopian people living in pharaonic Egypt.
Well, would you look at that? They found a way to tell you that the Egyptians were African. So, they all Herodotus is right about what his children came about. You know. So, thank you, Brother Constance. That demonstration. That goes to show you who was who. So we have people that happened for a long time, from the Iberian Peninsula to North Africa. So a lot of the early Greeks have African roots, and we have to acknowledge that. It's very important. It's part of the African heritage. We can't denounce it anymore. Period.
So are you saying to me where it's written, I believe Herodotus talks about the ancient Greek deities being black, all of them being black, Zeus,
yes,
and so forth, were all blacks. So you're saying, you know, obviously men create deities after their own images. So you're saying to us that the ancient Greeks were actually black African people?
Yes. When you go further back, their ancestors come out of Africa. They were breeding with the population of people that was around, but a lot of their DNA comes out of Africa. So a lot of the Greek gods or formulas belong to you. So yes, at one point in time, Zeus and a lot of the deities were Ethiopian. So a lot of our ancestors that came to tell us who was who is what it was.
Damn. I know that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, talking about the ancient Greeks being black, because they're going to equate that to certain practices that we see in later Greek historic periods, where these Greeks had homosexual rites and rituals. So were these, I don't know, were the Greeks homosexuals?
Some of them were. The later Greeks were homosexuals. Homosexuality is a human condition. I mean, that's something that people did. In Africa, we didn't play it. We didn't play that at all. But that's a certain feeling that certain humans develop. Just because we didn't play it in Africa don't mean it didn't exist. So, I mean, it's a human condition, imbalance. I don't know what the early Greeks was doing when the Africans was there, but we do know, yes, later on they were straight homosexuals, you know, cocksuckers, you know, they like men and all that other gay shit. But before that, no. I mean, it was exiled in Africa. We didn't play that. You know what I'm saying? But that's a human condition. You know, we have to study the origin of where it come from. I mean, if you study bonobo chimps, and this this goes to the evolutionary thing where people got an issue with. If you study certain bonobo chimps, which is closer to modern humans than a regular chimp, when they're really horny, sometimes they'll try to screw each other. That shows the animalistic aggressiveness or ego that certain animals do. This is a primate thing. But homosexuality is, it was denounced in Africa. I don't agree with homosexuality, but this is a human condition that always exists. In today's time, it's major. It's open. You could be open to be gay now. But this is something that always exists. This is a human condition. This is something that we develop through time and balance.
Wow, we've got over 250 people watching right now. Oh, this is amazing. Everybody is loving the information. Shout outs to Monica. Shout outs to Letteriland. Who else? Anuket. Who else we got here? We've got NBK in the building. Mark G, we see you. Salute to everybody. You know what? For everybody who's watching again, please hit the share button and let everybody know about, you know, our brother Ngozi is live with us right now. Now, you know what? For those of you as well who are actually new to the show and are just tuning in maybe for the first time, please hit the subscribe button because you know we've got great shows like this occurring every single week. Last week we had our brother Tariq Nasheed, which actually wasn't even last week. Saturday we had our brother Tariq Nasheed live with us. Previous to that we had Minister Enki with us. Previous to that we had our brother Sharif Bey and the rest of the Moorish, the Ali's men with us as well. And we've got a whole host of different titans passing through. Actually, we've got Friday, a Friday show. We have, who do we have? We've got the Mossy Warrior Clan and Team Osiris coming in to talk about Freemasonry, its African origins, and certain rites and rituals that takes place inside of Freemasonry. So that's going to be really, really interesting right there because I know a lot of you have an issue with Freemasonry, and a lot of us are intrigued by Freemasonry as well. So this is going to be a perfect time to have all of our misconceptions or rightful conceptions clarified for the people. Yes. All right. So you know what? Let me go straight back into my brother Ngozi because you're talking about the Greeks, and you know Greeks are said to be the founders of philosophy. So I want to know, what is the science behind philosophy?
Well, I mean, science itself started off as a philosophy. Before we start, you know, Aristotle was one of the first people to coin the term physics. He wrote a book called Physics. So philosophy or science itself started off as a philosophy before we started doing experimental processes and doing testing of data to come up with scientific theories, or coming together collectively as a group of scientists and coming together with scientific consensus. But science itself, or to know, started off as a philosophy. It was people that was observing the natural world around them and talking about how they feel. You know, later on, compared to modern science, we test things out before we say it, and then we come up with the equation of what it might look like, test it out before we even say what it is, and it's not just a regular theory, and then come up with a scientific theory through testing and observation and reporting. But philosophy itself is science. It started off as science. The term, if you study the history of science, it came out of philosophy. Aristotle came up with the book Physics. A lot of the observation that the Greeks were doing, mathematics, that they came in contact with different Egyptians. We got to understand something. The Greeks were lovers of science. They were observers. If you study Greece, these cats just didn't go into Egypt. You even got a Greco-Buddhist period in India that people don't talk about. So they were going all over the world learning and coming up with their own stuff. So, I mean, and that's part of science. Science deals with observing and reporting. Observing, testing, experimenting, and reporting. So, yeah, that's what the Greeks did, and that's what philosophy is, you know, philosophical. You come up with something, I can talk about nature, talk about the beauty of it with my imagination, and talk about it poetically, and talk about the detail in it, and then just talk about the greenness of the crops. It's raining out here, and you know, if I had certain tools, I can test the rain and measure the certain levels of it, pH levels in it, potential hydrogen levels in it, or talk about negative ions or positive ions that's going on within the environment today. That's the scientific version of modern scientific, but science itself started off as a philosophy.
Again, if you've got any questions, please drop them and just tag Titans TV, and we'll definitely ask our brothers any questions that you may have. I see a few of us are talking about Freemasonry right now. A lot of our brothers are actually intrigued, and sisters are intrigued in Freemasonry. Now, I know we've got, let me just check my panel real quickly. We've got Team Osiris in the building. We've got One's the God, Kufu, Brother Melvin, Konsu, Heru M in the building, Garfield, and also Amon Ra Squad official, Ishmael Bey in the building. So Ish, I'm just going to quickly invite you in and say peace to you. Yeah,
Peace
Ish.
to Brother Kalam, peace to you, and also to your listening audience, and of course, peace to Brother Ngozi, my teacher, my brother. Peace, brother.
Peace, brother.
All right.
Peace, brother. How you doing, man?
All is well, brother. And
Amon Ra Squad.
I got some links to back you up also, so I'm on standby.
That's needed, brother. Let's get
it. All right, let's go in. Let's go in. So you know what, Konsu, my brother Konsu, are you there?
Yes, peace, brother Kalam. What's good?
Peace, peace, peace. I know you're not being seen right now. I can't see you. I can't see you.
Okay, that's what's up. What's going on?
That's what I'm talking about. You know what? I just want to do like a nice shameless plug of your show coming up on Friday. Can you give us a quick overview of the topics that you're covering?
Yes, well, we're going to be talking about the African foundation and history of Freemasonry. Everything from some of the folklore dealing with the Prince Hall connection, going back into Umbatala and Ifa and African spirituality and how it was the construct for European Masonry that is titled Freemasonry, even getting into the mysticism and the actual constructs behind Freemasonry, giving understanding to allegory and what that term means and how it is used in literary works. So it's going to be pretty dynamic.
All right. And we know we also got a future show coming up. So let's get everybody just to mute their mics, please, because there's a mad feedback with my mic. Yeah, just gonna give a quick drop as well. We've got a future show coming up with another Team Osiris member, Brother Garfield. Are you there?
Yeah, peace and black power, brother. How you doing?
Peace.
Yes, sir.
I'm well. I'm well. You know what? I got some footage that I need to drop of you very soon. I think I'm gonna drop that on the run-up of when you're actually gonna be featured on the show, so I can get all my audience members familiar with
the secret. You mean the secret Titans files? You gonna open those up, brother?
That's right. That's right.
The unfiltered Garfield, right? Crazy Garfield, the unfiltered one. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'd love to see those too. I was actually looking at your channel a couple of times, like, why he ain't put those out, you know? But definitely, I got a show coming up. We're gonna discuss. This has been discussed a lot of times. The whole summer influence on Egypt, who was first, second, third, whatever. I'm gonna definitely go into it, but it's gonna be a continuation of what has been put out. And the reason why I'm actually doing the show is because, of course, you guys know. I don't like misinformation, and information to me is a problem. If you believe something, go ahead and believe it. You don't need to lie to, to stress things to say that you believe something. But this whole Sumerian origins of their culture and all that stuff, so-called Samaria, by the way, because it was never called Samaria. But just the continuation of the dynastic race theory that's been pushed by our own people, brothers and sisters that look like us, is really a shame, and a part of this whole Sumerian dynastic race theory is what a lot of the brothers who are part of the Hebrew, so-called Hebrew Israelite community puts out. So I'm gonna use some of the information. I mean, I got Brother Ank helping me out. I got my whole Dagger Squad team, Brother Allen and Maru and Danny, and we definitely downloading books. We're putting a real scholarship together. And one of the things that I'm going to point out to a lot of people is that the information that we see folks put on Sarnetta and Talk with the Titans, or even other splinter groups that's in the community, I'm going to look at some of the information they have presented, and I'm going to show and prove that it's not scholarship but fooliship. People using websites and misquoting authors and put author's name and say, oh, it's from this author, and then we bind books, Brother Kalam. I'm going in deep. We bought books and reviewed books and saw that the brothers were misquoting authors from the books that they saying and showing some Dr. York website to try to prove that they are right. It's a shame, man. This is going on in the community. So I'm going to point out a lot of misconceptions and misinformation that's going on with trying to prove summer. And nobody's disputing if that region had a culture or anything or grew into something. Nobody's disputing that. Nobody's disputing even if they even had contact with Egypt. We're just going to show and prove how Egypt developed, how that era in Mesopotamia developed, and you draw your own conclusion. And we're going to show and prove the truth, and you just draw your own conclusion and show the lies that has been told by other people in other communities. I don't know why people can't just believe what they believe and call it a day, man. You ain't no need to lie. If you believe in a God named Kalam or a God named Ngozi, believe in your God. Garfield ain't got a problem with you. Live by your laws and commandments. But when you start pulling in other cultures to try to make, your belief in Kalam's God the best God and all this craziness, then you're going to get chopped up. And that's what Amin-Ra Squad, Team Osiris, Masi Clan is all about. We're all about cleaning up the mess, man. That's all it's about, man. But we're gonna get into that, Kalam. We ain't set a date yet, but it's gonna be it's gonna be an explosion. Definitely gonna be an explosion that day.
That's right. That's right. Can't wait for that. Now, you know, we've got some more questions coming in. Thank you, Sci-Fi, by keeping order with inside of the chat room. The question asks here, what does Ngozi know about the Takar tribe of Cameroon, and what he knows about the Natufians and their origins?
The Natufians came out of East Africa. The Natufians were responsible for bringing agriculture to the so-called Middle East or the Levant as early as 10 to 13,000 years ago. According to Sir Williams, when he looked at the fossils of the Natufians, they were predominantly African at first, but when they go inside of the Levant, they meet up with early populations of people like the Mahadas, which was one group of people who lived there, who migrated out of Africa a lot earlier. So their genes was watered down. But the Natufians themselves were Africans. They came out of the Horn of Africa. They started domesticating barley, wheat, and grain, and tusks. They take that methodology through Egypt, or migrate to East Africa through the Horn, go through Egypt, and they take that technology into the Levant. And when they go into the Levant, they start the mastering of agriculture. But when they go into the Levant, they're not there by themselves. You had the Inky Caucasian people that were there as well, and the Mahata groups that was also there. This is why Dr. N.T. Job called it the zone of confluence. So that's one reason why. When it comes to the brothers in Cameroon, you have Bantu-speaking people. We have to study the Y chromosome. Bantu speakers, you got different groups. You got the Bimaliki, you got the group that you brought up, the Tukanas, if I'm not mistaken. You have these different groups of people, and the methodologies that they had also came out of early Nilo-Saharan Africans who brought a lot of those traits into that Central African region. But then it's important for us to understand the Afro-Asiatic language, and that's not part of the Niger-Congo family. A lot of the methodologies that the Afro-Asiatic or Eastern African people were doing, and the Niger-Congo population who came from Kordofan out of Sudan, a lot of them comes from our early Nilo-Saharan population, Nilo-Saharan ancestors. Agriculture started in more than one place. In West Africa, they were preserving yams and certain things on their own. And it can happen independently, especially when you have different eco zone changes where people have to learn to preserve their resources. So when it comes to the Natufians were black Africans who migrated out of the Horn of Africa or through the Horn of Africa, through Northeast Africa, and take the methodology into the Levant or the Lebanon area. And later on, that's around 15 to 13, as I stated, to 12,000 years ago. Later on, when they mixed up with those populations of people that was already wandering around, they take the methodology into Europe as early as 8,000 years ago. So farming goes into Europe 8,000 years ago. It makes it to the Levant around 13,000 years ago, and it starts in the Horn of Africa or East Africa around 15,000 years ago. But remember, agriculture started independently in different regions from people going through different eco zones and eco changes trying to preserve and store food. West Africans was preserving yams, people were preserving tusk, barley, and grains. And people in the Levant, you have that tusk, or I'm sorry, the barley, also in the Levant. So when the Natufians go into the Levant, it was easy for them to learn, or I'm sorry, to train the people around them on how to domesticate the crops and how to deal with it, because they were already dealing with it in East Africa. So that's who the Natufians were. Y chromosome was E1B1B. And they were also partially responsible for bringing the Nostratic languages over there, which is a sister class to Afro-Asiatic or Proto-Omotic languages, which arose around 18,000 years ago, around the Horn of Africa, or the Erythraean area. So from the Erythraean area, it goes out, it goes into Proto-Omotic. From Proto-Omotic, it becomes Proto-Omotic. Then you get the Proto-Amazigh languages. Later on, you get the Medo-Neta languages, and all those different Eastern African languages that arose. Even the Cushitic Eastern African language also comes out of this Eastern African language. Now, the coin Afro-Asiatic is a coin that Greenberg called it, but the term Afro-Asiatic is only, Asiatic means Easterner. So we're talking about East African languages. Greenberg was a Jew, so he's going to interpret it like that, but it wasn't really that. They were Proto-Omotic languages, or the Aga languages, and all these other languages that sprout out. So the Natufians were responsible for bringing a lot of those traits into the Middle East. Later on, you had Proto-Indo-European languages and other languages that was also wandering around, which later on established the Semitic language. But Proto-Semitic itself also comes out of the Horn of Africa, and it goes over there. The earliest Semitic writings, or Semitic writings itself, comes from a hybrid between Egyptian Proto-Sinaitic and Sumerian cuneiform. And the Sumerians themselves, and I'm glad that Garfield brought them up. The Sumerians were they wasn't the original people of that Mesopotamian area, and that name is not what they were called. The Sumerians spoke a Proto-Tamil language. They were more closer to Dravidian type people, but they also were mixing with Nostratic or Proto-Cushitic type people that was already living around through the Arabian Peninsula that was already running around. The Akkadian language is the first established Semitic language, and they get their right from Egyptian Proto-Sinaitic and Sumerian cuneiform or coin form. And the cuneiform or coin language that the Sumerians spoke was only a language based off trade. If you look at the Sumerian writings, it's based off the preservation of grains and goats. Look at the symbolism. It's a coin language, a token language as they call it. So this is what created the hybrid Semitic language, which was nothing but a zigzag language, which was a hybrid language. So I'm glad that Garfield will be doing that. But the Natufians themselves came out of Africa.
Now, there's another question up here coming from our sister, and the question is, can you explain the origins of whites? Where did white people come from?
White people are Homo sapiens sapiens. They come from where every other modern human come from. They come out of Africa. They just went through extreme mutations, which make them look completely different from modern humans. And medical when it comes to the medical consensus, or when it comes to I'm sorry, my mind's everywhere because I'm in the streets. When it comes, they're not a separate species. That's what people want them to be. So when it comes to the white people themselves, or whatever you want to call them, the mutation for SLC2485, sodium potassium exchange of 55, which gives them the pale skin, it happened around 6,000 to 12,000 years ago, and it happened somewhere in that Central Asia area. The blue eye gene, which is called OCA2, or through the HERT, which is occultaneous strand 2, which is the second strand of albinism, happened around the Georgia area around 10,000 years ago. But the people that was in Europe before these mutations or these bad genes came in were early darker skinned hunter-gatherers with the Y chromosome CV1V20, which is the early population of people that went through Africa, through the Middle East, and ended up in Europe. Then later on, you get the farmers who brought those bad genes there, and they brought those traits. Again, we talked about the SLC2485 coming out of the so-called Central Asia area. They brought farming up there around 8,000 years ago, and they brought a lot of those bad genes, or what we call the deleted genes, or the depletion of the 111 amino acid, which brought the fair skin gene there. But before the pale skin gene was lingering around, you had the people that was coming from that that Georgian area that was bringing the OCA2 strands there. This is why they found the fossils of the guy in Spain who had dark skin. When they was able to measure the soft tissue that they was able to see, they seen out the skeleton that he had dark skin, but he also had blue eyes. So the blue eye gene came from a certain area. So when you get the blue eye gene that combines with the SLC2485, you start to see the first traits of a so-called European person, white person. Not to mention the Yamanas, who came in around 5,000 years ago as horsemen. So what I'm saying is that their white skin has nothing to do with being mixed with Neanderthal. Because even though Neanderthals were fair skin, even if you get the average black and white person, you still don't get pale skin. So we have to understand what was the texture of the Neanderthal skin, and what made him look the way he looked. Is it based off him living in certain areas for thousands of years? Because his ancestor was the Homo heidelbergensis, who later on became Homo neanderthalis. And Homo heidelbergensis also came from out of Africa. Or also Homo ancestor, which is one of the first offshoots of Homo ergaster. Around 1.8 million years ago, you have Homo erectus and Homo ergaster. Around 1.2 million years ago, I'm sorry, you have Homo ancestor. And then later on, you start getting these other traits, and you see Neanderthalis evolve around 400,000 years ago. So we have to be careful when we talk about Neanderthal and what their skin was like and where the white people come from. Not to mention that the white people genes is not that the Neanderthal traits that they have in them is not them a Neanderthal. The damn genes in their human leukoantigens only have 4 to 2%, but it stands out at 30 to 70% when you go into the micro caps of biology when you start measuring the demi-level. And when you get into the demi-level, it stands out even higher. But on the surface of him being a Homo sapiens sapien, a species, it only stands out at 4 to 2%. Neanderthals were only off by humans. We were similar at 99.7.5%. That leaves you with almost 0.11.5, not 11, but 0.11.5 distance off. But 99.7.5% of our DNA was the same, because remember, Neanderthal and Homo sapiens sapien came from the same common ancestor. You get what I'm saying? And that's Homo heidelbergensis, which evolved in different places and became what we are at different zones. That's what happened.
Now, you know what? There's been a common saying within inside of the community. I don't know how true this is, or if you have any information to actually back this up. But the saying is that the whites or the Europeans, their birth rates are falling at alarming rates. Is there any truth to that?
Is it true to what again?
That the birth rates of whites and Europeans are falling at alarming rates.
Oh yeah. That's definitely true. Yes, it's they have a lot of That's another thing that they got from the Neanderthal ancestors, which is something bad. They have reproductive areas. Yes, their birth rate is decreasing. Not to mention that if you look into SLC 2485, it has an expiration date. Europeans are sickly people. They're degenerate people. They represent deletion genes itself. Yes, their birth rate is dropping. This is why you have all these fertility clinics and different things. The eggs is all messed up. The sperm is all messed up. You can't even find a Y chromosome, which is sex chromosomes, for a Neanderthal. And a lot of them do have reproduction issues. So yes, their birth rates is decreasing. That's a fact. You can look into it. They have videos everywhere talking about the down race of the white race, how they need to stick together and come together, and different things. So yes, that's true.
And another question that's coming in is, why were the Natufians and other such people relocating to Europe? Were they being expelled? Was it war? Was it famine? What was the migration purpose for them to leave Africa to go into Europe?
No. We had these different phases of ecozone changes. In the Middle Glacier period, when that kicked in around 22,000 years ago, a lot of the Africans went south of the Sahara, or beyond the Sahara, or what we refer to as Sub-Saharan. And then around 10,000 years ago in the Holocene Glacier period, when it started becoming green crops again, a lot of the population started going back through the Sahara and back into Egypt. So it wasn't because they was exiled out. They didn't see the world the way we see the world today. People were just leaving. They were trying to go where it was more easier. It wasn't nothing like that. Did we have wars in the Sahara? Yes. When you study the Jebel Sahaba graves, it talks about a so-called war between Africans with orthonistic features compared to the Africans with pronathistic features. You also had the Tenerians and the Kefians in the Sahara, if you study the skeletons of the Sahara. But it had nothing to do with them being exiled. They just didn't see the world the way we see it today. There was no borders back then. So it was easy for an African to leave out, see all this lush land somewhere, and say, oh, I want to stay here. Not to mention, the Middle East, the way it looked today, did not look the way it looked 10,000 or 13,000 years ago at all.
All right. So you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm actually going to open up for there to be a discussion because we've literally reached the last part of our show right now. So I'm going to open up for our panel members to actually have a discussion right now. As well, for everybody who is new and don't know anything about Talk with the Titans, Talk with the Titans was birthed out of the idea that the intellectual giants, the titans of our community, should have a well-organized platform to present, discuss, and debate critical information affecting our community, proposed by you, our audience members, our community. So you know what? You lot have proposed a lot of titans to pass through, and we've made it happen. You proposed that you wanted to have Ngozi in the building. He's now in the building with us. You proposed that you wanted Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed was with us not too long ago. You proposed that you wanted Ishmael Bey. Ishmael Bey was with us. Sharif Bey as well was with us. So all the titans that you proposed to us, we're going to make it happen. Okay? I can see Reggie as well. We need to make Reggie come on and do his own show. My brother Reggie Mabry need to come on and do his own show as well. So real quickly, let me just share my screen and go over here. For those of you who may just be new to Talk with the Titans, yeah, right now there's over 250 people tuned in right now. But please, when the show is finished, please check out all the past shows with Tariq Nasheed, Professor Griff, Zaza Ali, Sharif Bey, Brother Enki, Minister Enki, as well. Uncle Keck, Young Pharaoh, and Nasia Chevelle, as well as our sister from the Amun-Ra squad, Dr. Ma'at. Nah, you know what? Dr. Ma'at's show needs to get a pull-up. Definitely have to get a pull-up. Watch that show. And as, of course, Sharif Bey. And for those of you who love the debates, please go and check in on our Speakers Corner debates. These are the debates that takes place over here in the UK. Familiarize yourself if you're in America, Canada, or anywhere else like that. Please familiarize yourself with what's going on over here in the UK. We have various debates going on between Muslims, Chemetics, atheists, Christians, Hebrews, you know, you name it, we've got those debates going on over here. And we've also got presentations on politics as well. So yeah, please check out our playlist, check out every single thing that we do on Talk with the Titans or Titans TV, because trust me, we've got so much going on. You're going to find something you're going to love, and you're going to come back and watch some more. So here we go. Brother Ngozi. Brother Ngozi, you there?
Yeah, I'm right here, brother. I'm right here. Go ahead.
All right. So you know what? We've got some questions. Well, we've got a panel full of Team Osiris and Amun-Ra squad members, and I'm going to open up the panel for them to have a dialogue with you, because we're going to have to close out very, very soon. So I'm going to open up the mics to Melvin, Kufu, Wands, the God, Konsu, Garfield, and my brother Ishmael. So if you've got any questions or comments for Ngozi, please shoot them away.
Yes. Well, I got a question. Basically, I wanted the brother Ngozi. My question was, are the modern quote unquote pale Arabs that we see today, do they come from the a Greek stock? Because we noticed that Alexander the Greek, after subduing Persia, he led his fight into India, and we do see have Hellenic influences in India. We can see that through various different archaeology, one of which is a sculpture called the Flower Genie, which is from the 4th or 5th century CE. So I would like to know, we see the Hellenic influences in that region, so I would like to know, did they, the stock that we see today of these modern pale Arabs, did they derive from the Greeks? So that's a question I have.
Absolutely. Nina Jablonski, Scientific American Journal, said that Arabs have only been living in Arabia for as early as 2,000 years. So yes, remember, a lot of these Arabs are coming from those sea people who came into Kemet around 3100 BC with the Berbers, and a lot of the sea people came from that Crete area. This is where you get the word Palestine. Palestine comes from the word Philistine. Philistines were the sea people. They came from southern Europe. So yes, a lot of these cats do have southern Mediterranean European blood. Yes, they do. As I brought up earlier, a lot of the Berbers were coming in contact with Greco-type people as early as 684 BC. But according to Nina Jablonski and Scientific America, modern-day Arabs have only been living in that area for 2,000 years. The original Arabs were the Mahiri people. They speak Southern Semitic languages, and they're darker skinned. A lot of their genetic affinities is more closer to Dravidian people than it is to anybody else on the planet. A lot of the people in the so-called Middle East before looking the way they look today look like Dravidians or East African type people. And a few of them even look like our West African ancestors, because they were also migrating. But overall, they were more of a Dravidian type people phenotypically, with the orthorhynithistic features, vertical shaped faces, rectangular orbit eye socket, spindle type of forehead, with locus ectoplasm A receptor, jet black straight hair, with darker skin. So a lot of these people did look like that. In certain parts of Yemen, the Mahiri people can have thicker hair. So yes, Arabs you have a ancestor or a lot of genetic affinity from that Georgian area and the Southern European area. Yes, sir, brother.
I wanted to be able to highlight some information that Brother Ngozi was speaking about earlier, as well as just touch upon dealing with right now also. Brother Kalam, I posted up at 7:38. I posted up an article. If you could post that up, your listeners or your viewers are welcome to follow us on that. The name itself is called Arab Awakenings: Divergence in the Arab World Analysis. And down near the bottom of this particular article, the section is called Europe and North Africa, EU and North Africa. It states here, quote, that the North Africans have a closer relationship with Europe. In the classical times, they were integral part of the Greek and Roman empires. Many works assumed to be by Greeks or Romans were by Moorish scholars who had adopted Greek or Moorish or Latin names. The Moors built the first university in Europe, and many classics considered fundamental to European Renaissance were actually recovered from Moorish translations. The Moors ruled most of Europe, and influence can be seen everywhere. It shouldn't be a surprise to see even the Islamic parties of the region accepting European influences and embracing democracy as a means for their empowerment. So what we've been sharing on another branch of the Amiral Squad forum is called Amiral Squad Moorish and African Scholarship. We've been actually finding the actual names of some of these key people over the last week, and we'll be also adding some additional information. So many of these Moors adopted Greek names, so unless you know specifically who you're looking for, you may think they are Greeks, but they're actually Moors who had adopted Greek names, and they were deciphering the information and then spreading it out throughout Europe, as Brother Ngozi had stated.
Thank you. Now the floor is open for anybody else who would like to actually give any commentary or ask any questions.
Yeah, peace is cool. I got one question real quick. Well, we know the word Moor is a Latin term, if I'm correct. What would be the translation of that into the language that the people who were considered Moors, what would that word be? And is that the word that they call themselves based on the labels that they were given from the outside world?
Again, the Phoenicians were a people that called these people Westerner Moor. Moor is a broad term. Well, my research, as far as them calling themselves that, I know about the Maori people of Mauritania, who the Latin people took the name later on and distorted it. But the Maori people, and I also know the Phoenicians talked about the Westerner, even before you get the term Maghreb that we have. So in some cases, did they call themselves that? No, but if they came from Mauritania, they probably did. Mauritanians had the actual first original Moorish flag that Brother Ish is presenting, the real Moorish flag. They had their own. So in Mauritania, yes, you did have the Maori people, who were a cousin to modern-day Tuareg. Not to mention they were also, I'm sure they did mix with the O.S.I.R.I.S people, who were the original people of Mauritania that ruled a lot of stuff. I mean, we had trade routes between the Berbers. The Mandinka or the Saunke would give them gold for salt. They had the salt in the desert. We had the gold in southern Mauritania and ancient Ghana. Our O.S.I.R.I.S ancestors were a Proto-Mindi people. So it's really important for us to study our Mandinka ancestry. People with predominantly E1B1A, 8A, as Brother Ish has, and a few other people, especially coming from Carolina, and people coming from that southeastern to east coast bloodline. Some of us also have E1B1A, 7A, but the Mandinka, 42% of the slaves were of Mindi descent. And it's important for us to understand who the Mindi people were. So did they call themselves that overall? No, I don't think so. But did the Mauritanians have a group of people called Maori there? Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Okay. I don't know if Ish wanted to respond to that. Is there a translation of the term Moor in some of the Islamic, or either some of the Judaic Christian or the Jewish people who were considered Moors? Is that a word that was translatable into their own languages?
Unless you're talking about a variation of the African word Nar, you could also use terms like Nawa, which is a term which means black Moor, That's an indigenous term, which is actually a Berber word, and that comes from the African stock of Berbers that were in North Africa. So Nawa, which are, again, it means black Moors. Those are the indigenous people of the Dra Valley in Morocco, as well as originally coming from the Lake Chad regions to the Dra Valley of Morocco. So that's what you will find as indigenous terms and self-descriptions.
Okay, and I'd just like to just give a big shout out as well to everybody who has actually donated to the Titans TV Global Project Fund, and that is Bobby Harrison, Monica Lamb, Dawood Mfanshingabo, allow me with the pronunciation, and of course my brother Sebek as well. We was actually raising some money to kind of fund, some future shows and actually fund. We wanted to have brother Phil Valentine to actually pair on Talk with the Titans. And if anybody knows about brother Phil Valentine, he's literally the author of, or one of the authors of the Conscious Community. And he tends not to come out unless there is actually money on the table to actually come out, because he's seen what's happened to the elders within inside of the community, how we've treated them, making them go into, into care, not actually looking after their houses, not looking after their estate, not looking out after their works and so forth. So he's demanding that there is some type of remuneration for his efforts. But unfortunately, I don't think we're going to actually raise enough money. We did want him to come on the show for the 1st of June, but I don't think we're going to raise enough money in time for him to actually come on the show. But if you do want to see our brother Phil Valentine, Dr. Phil Valentine, on Talk with the Titans, please hit the donate button, and so we can raise enough money for him to actually come on to the show, give an exclusive lecture. He's got a very exclusive lecture lined up for us. We simply just have to raise enough money to actually have him onto the show. So if you can, please hit the donate money, because we definitely would like to have, this is one of the last great Titans, within inside of the conscious community. So, before anything does happen, we definitely would love to actually have him on the show. If not, I think I may just have to have him on a private show, and only those who've actually donated will actually have an opportunity to actually see that. But I really would love for more of our members, or all of our Talk with the Titans TV audience members, to actually see Dr. Phil Valentine on Titans TV. So if you can make it happen, please donate to our GoFundMe, which is Titans TV. Simply type in gofundme.com/TitansTV. Okay, and that's it. That's the only thing I had to actually say. So you know what? Please, some last rounding up questions. Ooh, somebody just say Professor Griff. Professor Griff, not Professor Griff. Sorry. Professor James Small. Professor James Small. They would love to see Professor James Small onto the channel. Yeah, we definitely should make that happen. As well, if you would like to donate, I've seen that some of you are asking about where to go to donate. It's right here, which is gofundme.com Titans TV. For any of you lot who actually do donate to our GoFundMe, we definitely will shout you out. We definitely give you preferential treatment, where you will be put onto the panel of any show that you possibly would like to choose to be on. So again, just go to the GoFundMe Titans TV and donate there. And also, for those of you who do not have the money to donate, please share the link. Share the link. Support us. Give us our likes. Anything else. Tell your friends about Titans TV. These are other ways that you can actually support the channel, support it to grow, and support it to reach other people who would actually benefit from the information being dropped as well. Okay, quickly. So let me go back to my brothers Ngozi. So if anybody's got any questions for my brother Ngozi, please ask them away. And yes, there is a Patreon account. There's so many places where you can actually donate. But I kind of found it that people tend not to donate for some strange reason. I don't know why. You know, I don't know why they don't want to donate, but yeah, there is actually a Patreon account as well linked. There's all the information, to be honest with you, is actually at the bottom in the description box. If you go to the description box and you'd like to donate in the Patreon or into the GoFundMe, it's all down there in the description box as well. So I'm just reading your comments real quickly. So yeah, if you've got any more questions for the brother, please ask them. Please ask them. Because you know what, I am real tired. I just had a 12-hour day shift, and you know, I'm here. So please, if you got any questions, yeah, do ask them, because I definitely do want to go and catch my bed and make love to my pillow and sleep a good night's sleep. So please, if you got any more questions, ask them away.
If you're sleepy, man, just get it in. I mean, I don't know if anybody got any more questions. I mean, I think that this was a quick, good show. I don't know if anybody got any questions. I think we covered most of it. I mean, they want to know the orders of the white man, and the orders of the white man is still the same. It's not the. I'm not going to make him nothing a separate species. That's bullshit. I'm sorry, you don't like cursing. He's not a separate species from us. That's bullcrap. Regardless of certain little mutations that make him look different drastically to some people, that stuff is nonsense. If you want to ask the question that Ngozi supports evolution, yes, I do. Do I classify Homo sapiens sapiens as great apes? Yes, we are great apes. You can look at your rib cage. You can look at your appendix. You can look at the complexity of the brain cavity. You can look at your a lot of traits that shows the commonality between us and them. Not to mention 2A and 2B chromosome 2 fusion that's fused together, which shows somewhere down the line you want to have 46 chromosomes if these two chromosomes wasn't fused together, 2A and 2B. So yes, I support evolution. Is Europeans a separate species? No, they're not. And anything else y'all want to ask, you can just ask the question. Basic little mutations or medical science, that stuff don't exist. That's pretty much it. You know the truth. You know one thing about life, brother Kalam, is that the truth is simple. It's not complex. People like to romanticize stuff that drag along a bunch of lies and make us have feel-good philosophy. And it comes in a strange thing called metaphysics. That's the danger of metaphysics. It's a bunch of philosophical trash that makes people feel good, but the truth is straightforward, straight to the truth, straight that. There's nothing else to it. That's it.
All right, so where can they find you at? They want to stay in tune with your information. Where can they find you at?
We got the Team Osiris website. We got the Team Osiris, teamosiris.com or .org. We also have Team Osiris Facebook page in the group. You can also find me under Amir Kamara and on Facebook page. You know, I'm always dropping a lot of information. AmirCamara. Not to mention, I would like the world to know, starting today, no longer call me Ngozi. I don't descend from Igbo people. The term Ngozi means blessing. Call me by who I descend from. I am Fulani and Mandinka in origin, so I would like for people to either call me Kamara or Amir. That's it. Camara. Kamara. So please don't call me that anymore, because I do not descend from Igbo people, and I think that it's kind of wrong for me to say that I descend from Igbo people if I don't genetically. So you guys can catch me at AmirKamara.com. I mean Amir Kamara on Facebook, on the Facebook page, and also we have Team Osiris website, teamosiris.com, and also I'm a Rock Squad up. I'm Ngozi on there, but I'm gonna also let the squad know not to call me that as well. So peace and love to the family.
Peace and love, family. We're gonna close it out right now. If anybody has any announcement, please let off your announcements right now. All right. You sure? Cool.
That's it, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So we're signing out. We know we've had our great Titan, formerly known as Ngozi, now known as Amir Kamara. You know, we're signing out right now. So thank you for tuning in. This has been Talk with the Titans. I've been your host, Kalam signing out. Thank you very much. And please share the link and let everybody know that we had our brother Ngozi on. Peace, family. Peace.